Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your life on your terms. I'm Sheila Mack, your host, and today we have special guest Dr. Jessica Borushok, and she is the busy mind psychologist. Who has a busy mind this year? Oh my goodness. She helps busy minds get unstuck out of their own way and back into their best selves. Through one on one work in private practice and her popular course, Busy Mind Reboot, another rebooter, all right, 30 days to your best self, Dr. Jessica has helped hundreds of productive procrastinators, overwhelmed high achievers, recovering perfectionists, and self proclaimed control freaks transform their relationship with their thoughts and optimize their world. She's an award winning author and recognized expert in acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. Dr. Jessica has co authored numerous books and self growth tools, including the ACT Deck. She has been featured on The List, Art of Charm, podcast, Thrive Global, The Good Men Project, and many others. Okay, so welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Wow, well, you sound like your programs are very aligned with mine. That's awesome. I love that. That is so good. So the reason I started this show is to align with my latest book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this year, we have had every situation thrown at us globally.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I would love to maybe start out with your own personal journey or business journey and maybe an example of a tough situation or rock bottom that you had to overcome and how you got back on track.
Yeah. And honestly, it's kind of an intersection between my personal and professional life because being a psychologist, showing up for other people, creating space for other people's pain every day is a wonderful, beautiful profession. And yet, when you hit a rock bottom, when you hit something you're struggling with, it kind of throws you through a loop. You're used to being the one that people come to, the like quote unquote strong one.
Mm-hmm.
And so a number of years ago, I was in a relationship where I experienced sexual trauma. And it wasn't until a little while after I had gotten out of that relationship that I started experiencing pretty severe PTSD symptoms. And as a result of that, I wasn't able to do my work anymore. I wasn't in a place where I could hear what other people were going through. I was very depressed. I was having nightmares every day. And I ended up having last year to quit my job, move back. I was living in Canada, move back to the States, move in with my mom at 30 years old, which is not something you ever want to have to do. And I was out of work for 9 months, just going to weekly therapy and focusing on myself. And it really messed up with my image of myself. I had this idea of like, I was the helper. Mm-hmm. I was the strong one. I was the one who was there for other people. And I had to learn that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to show up as your authentic self without this big shield between you and the world. Mm-hmm. And the irony is, it's what I was asking my clients to do all the time. And I think intellectually I understood that. But when you go through an experience where you literally just can't function the way that you used to anymore, it forces you to pause and stop and meet yourself and figure out kind of who you are and how do you want to show up to the world and what example you want to show up as.
Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful gift that we forget to give ourselves the time that we need when we're going through a traumatic or difficult situation like that. And PTSD can show up. You could be the strongest person on the planet, yeah, and something could happen and there it is. And you're like, whoa, I never even thought this was real. And then when you have it, you're like, oh, this is some real stuff. And it's almost like our bodies are saying, hey, you know what? We need you to stop right now and take a minute and reset, reboot, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
often have a lot of clients who will come to me with physical symptoms that they have, and I'll explain, yeah, that's anxiety or that's depression that's showing up, and they'll be like, no, that's there's some health thing that must be going on. And I always say, if we're not taking the time to process our emotions, to understand what's happening inside of our bodies and inside of our hearts, our body's going to make sure that we pay attention. And one of the ways it does is through symptoms, is through whether it's physical symptoms, whether it's thoughts that are running through your head. It's saying, hey, this is a thing we need to deal with. You're not paying attention. I'm going to ramp it up a little bit. And so you're forced to pay attention to it.
that's so true. And you mentioned that you moved home for a while. And
Mhm.
you know what? There is nothing wrong with that. That is
Yeah.
the smartest thing. You're blessed to have a beautiful family that can have a home for you to go home
Mhm.
to and have that time. And it's, willingness to ask for help when you need it, especially this year. A lot of people have to make some changes just because this year has been so interesting in and of itself without all the other things that happen in our own business and personal life. And so that is more than okay. That is incredible. And I'm sure your parents are loving every moment of it. I know, I have to admit, I confess, I have 6 children, 3 are mine, 3 I fostered to adopt.
Mhm.
And let me tell you, I have two home right now because the dorms closed, the college is
Yeah.
closed. And of course, I always made sure to have a big enough space in my home and extra rooms because I said, if ever you need to come home, it's always here for you. And my kids are so independent that they're like, okay, well, we visit a lot, we talk on the phone a lot, but now they're home and it's been a few years. And so it's for me, I'm like, oh, I'm enjoying this gift. This is a gift of time. We're doing all those things that maybe we didn't get to do when we were so busy because our world slowed down. We got to slow down and heal from all our different things going on. Maybe people don't even realize that they've had something. I feel like sometimes when you feel safe and you're in a good place, you can finally have the emotions that maybe you've been suppressing. And I've seen that a
Absolutely.
lot. Yes. And so
Yeah.
this year has happened.
It's a lot of times when people are in places where they feel insecure, and I don't mean emotionally, I mean like a roof over their head or a
Yeah.
secure job or finances, or even just being in an emotionally safe environment around people who aren't abusing them in some way or aren't invalidating what they're going through. If you're in that kind of environment, it's almost impossible to pause and take time to process because you're just trying to keep going and keep moving forward. And it has really been a blessing for me to be home. And I
Mhm.
think if one of the struggles people have is when they have a vision for how their life is going to go, and inevitably something happens. Like maybe it's not trauma and PTSD, but maybe it's something else.
It was COVID this year to everybody, right? I mean, like everybody had a different thought. 2020 is going to be the best year ever. We got this. Happy New Year. And then it was like, boom, what happened? So,
There's always something that shows up because we can't predict the future. But if we hold too tightly to that vision, it's always going to put us in a situation where we're losing, where we're failing, where we're somehow not up to the level that we want to be at, instead of pausing and recognizing, hey, this is another opportunity. Maybe it's not what we wanted life to look like, but that doesn't mean that this is wrong or bad. And
mhm.
I've been doing exactly what you've mentioned. I've been appreciating the fact that for the first time in 12 years, I've been at home with my parents. My best friend lives down here in South Florida. And so I've gotten the chance to see her. We haven't lived in the same state since we were in undergrad.
Uh,
And really taking that time to connect with the people who are important to me and knowing I'm going to get back to that vision. And when I do, I'm going to be in such a great position not only to help myself, but to help others and move myself forward. But it wouldn't have happened if I was holding so tightly to like, life must go this way.
mhm, mhm. And these magic memories and moments with your friend, with your family, when do we get this time?
Yeah.
This like this is the best time ever in some ways because we have that what matters most.
Mhm.
We get to remember that. And I think sometimes with all the goals and things we have for ourselves and for society, even when it's to go help other people, it's easy to forget because we get so busy. And
Yeah.
then we don't feel and we don't process all these emotions, and something happens and it's one thing, but it's 100 things, 1,000 things that we ignored, that we didn't listen to.
When we look back at our life, it's not going to be that extra project we did or that email we sent or that time we worked overtime. It's going to be the little moments,
Mhm.
laughing on the phone with our friends, getting to spend a holiday with family, the weird, fun game nights you've come up over Zoom during the pandemic. There's going to be a lot of moments that can be difficult, but there's always the chance to find those sweet spots, and they're always tied to things that matter to us. We get so caught up in all those goals and shoulds, right? Well, I should be doing this, I should be doing more, I should be here in my life.
Mhm.
And all that's doing is holding you back from realizing all of the wonderful blessings that are in your life right now.
Yes. And I mean, for me, for my family and I, my youngest son passed away December 21st,
Oh,
2019.
I'm
He
so sorry
had,
to hear
yeah,
that.
and it was really, that was, we had plans and goals, and my book was coming out in January. And I said, nope, sorry, publisher, thank you so much, but no. And I said, right now, my family and I, we need time. And I gave it a good long time. The book actually came out August 4th. It still made bestseller. It
Yeah.
still did everything it was supposed to do. It's still helping people, but I needed to make sure that I was healed and fueled. I mean, I don't know if you ever heal fully from something like that. We're still going through our ups and downs as a family, but even my daughter and my other kids, I have all boys and one girl, and so she gets mentioned the most, but they're all close. And so they came over for a barbecue when the universal pause pandemic just started, before we got really locked down. That first week when they were thinking about it, and some places were already locking down, and we're like, we might be next. Let's have a barbecue. And my daughter says, if ever there was a year our family needed a universal pause, it was this year. And it was so true. And we have really embraced all those moments and that healing time. When is the world going to stop like this again? Probably never. And so
Yeah, this is a once in a lifetime kind of event.
yes, and then
Hopefully.
we're learning history, and we're learning to care about things that maybe, okay, it was in a history book, but now it's real.
Yeah.
Just got real with all the different things going on our planet, and the injustice and the racial situation, and hopefully all that gets resolved. A lot of times there's a theory that when things break down and you have chaos, it's because it reorganizes to something even better. And I think that even goes for when you go through a moment of PTSD or something. It's like your body's like, hey, right now we're going to heal, but we're going to get even better. So
Mhm.
if you're listening right now and you feel like, oh my gosh, this year has made all my plans go away and I'll never do my dream, that's not going to happen. You will be able, you keep moving little steps. You may have to roll your sleeves up and do something different for a while because your job shifted or something else happened. You moved home. Yet, as long as you're staying focused and on track for your true goals, they will show up in time, and you just give it time, the universal pause and the time that we need to enjoy every day while we're waiting to get to the next step is really important. It
I
makes
c
all the difference.
I completely agree. And it doesn't all have to happen right now.
Yes.
We don't have to have the big dream realized. We can take small steps right now to reimagine, readjust, and start moving forward. My dad always jokes that it doesn't matter how many times you exercise in a week; it matters how many times you exercise in a lifetime.
Mhm.
It's about those small little moments that add up over time. And if we can approach life in that way, it means there's always an opportunity for growth, for connection, for showing up to the moment that we don't have to wait. I've heard a lot of people are like, I can't wait till 2020 is over, as if by some magic, once the calendar changes over, once the ball drops, that life will return to normal. And like, I'm sorry, but that's just not going to happen. So instead of waiting for our life to get back to normal, whatever that is, can we take this opportunity to show up to what life is right now? Because life is still happening,
Yes.
and continue to move forward. I could have said, "Oh, well, I can't live my life until I'm done with PTSD, or until everything is back to the way it used to be." And I would have missed out on a lot of opportunities. But not working, being home, focused on myself, gave me the chance to learn new things and explore new opportunities and get to know myself. And it turns out I really like her. She's a pretty cool person.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. It's so true. You know, for me, it was like they had scheduled me, the publishers scheduled me for a book tour and a speaking tour. And I moved the main place over, the main business and residence over to Nevada. So I could also, when I'm home, I'm going to have speaking engagements from home, and then go back to Beverly Hills, my other home, and have things there. And so they had this whole schedule planned out. And yet, instead of saying, okay, well, that's not going to work, so I'm just going to go home and give up, I said, all right, fine. I got invited to do this radio show, and I got involved with other things. I do classes, courses, masterminds with people in Australia, London, all over the world, South Africa. Sometimes my hours are kind of wild right now because their time zones are different. So I can get jet lag in my own house. Just from one thing to the next. But I'm connecting with people around the world that I never would have had the opportunity to connect with at the level I'm working with them at now, because of this, and because I didn't say I give up because it wasn't the way it was supposed to look like.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
It's beautiful. And think of all of those connections and all of those opportunities. That's fantastic. I have some friends who live over in Australia, and trying to figure out times for the two of us to connect is always some mental gymnastics.
Yes. Yeah, they're like a different day. And then, so like I have a program in Australia I'll be working on, leading this, I don't know, this talk, and I have to be there 10 p.m. my time until midnight, but it's actually their next day.
Yep.
So it's a different day, and it's still the middle of the night, sort of. So it is interesting.
And what a great opportunity to shift your perspective, right? Of
Yeah.
I am literally in the darkness, and these other folks are in a whole other day. They're in the future, but
Yeah.
it's their present moment. And having more of those opportunities, I think that's what's been happening in the world right now, is not that we're identifying new problems, but they're being heard now. Right.
Yeah.
With systemic racism and racial injustices, this isn't a new issue, but we are able to hear voices because we aren't so stuck in this life of busy, 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 work, 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 keep our head down, focus on our own problems. We've kind of paused and put our head up and go, whoa, this is the world.
Yes.
And it's allowed us to connect with people and cultures and the world in a totally unique and beautiful way. And it's my hope that something really beautiful comes out of it, and that once the pandemic is over, we don't just fall back into keeping our head down and staying busy and working a lot, but we take the lessons that we've learned of spending an afternoon with friends, or being creative in how we spend our time, or how we connect with people, or even how we work, so that our future can be even better.
Yes, I agree. And I know there's a lot broken with our system, on that topic. That one of the things, I have all these children, and they're like a rainbow, of from different places and cultures. I had a multicultural marriage, and so we have these beautiful children from all over, and they were treated differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I got very involved with equal education for all. And I actually did a lot of campaigning. It was nonpartisan, not to get into any kind of political talks, but it was nonpartisan for the children. And I was on a documentary about this, and one of my points that I made in the documentary was the one child that is denied their fair and equal education, that's the child that's going to have the cure to the
Yeah.
disease you may be dying from one day.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Because when it hurts one person, it hurts all of us
Yeah.
in society. And it was just like boom, that was a big thing in that documentary, and it's true today. And now I think people are not afraid to talk about these situations, whether it's the systemic differences and racism that goes on that nobody wanted to say anything about, or if it's a sexual attack or something,
Mhm.
or if it's PTSD or mental health or some kind of abuse at home or work. People are like, you know what, we're not going to stay quiet about this anymore. We're going to talk about this and we're going to make a change. And so I think that, like your generation and
Yeah.
my, you're kind of like my kids' age, is actually, these are the leaders.
Mhm.
And this time has caused a reset, even for younger generations, on, hey, wow, what matters most, and this is some real stuff, and we're going to clean this up. And it takes all of us together, working together, no matter your political party or ideals. It's really the human condition that we need to make better so that we don't have to feel unsafe or have to get away from an abusive situation, or have somebody that's actually supposed to be protecting us hurting us. Actually, later on today, I have a police officer who's going to talk about, he works with healing
Mhm.
the situation and getting community relations back. And so it'll be incredible if you're tuning into that.
Oh, that sounds like a wonder. I'm gonna tune into that one. That sounds like a wonderful
very,
conversation.
very interesting. So I think one of the things I wanted to share real quick was, if you're going through something this year, I heard from our group, and friends in the Be Seen on TV BSA program, I have heard about this 211. Have you heard of 211, Jessica?
That it's a phone number, right? What that you can call. I know it. I can't think of what it is right now though.
So
So
this is why
please share it.
I'm like the spokesperson for 211 right now. And this is why you can put anywhere in the United States, you can type in Google 211 and your state, Texas, Nevada, California, wherever you're at, New York, and you will get all a list of um, mental health
Mhm.
professionals you can connect with for free, and you'll get a suicide hotline. You will get referrals to getting free meals if you need to get food on your table right now and COVID's hit you hard, or you've had a job loss. You'll get help on rental assistance, or how to deal with if you maybe have to move out of your house for one reason or another. Whether you're the landlord or the renter, they have different programs for everybody. If you're getting out of an abusive situation like you had to do at one point, they have referrals to people that can help you. So, definitely get my book, get involved with what Jessica's doing. And then you need something today, at least you have a number. So if you keep the 211 as the new 411, that is going to help people all over the United States. Just if they're tuning in, keep that number in your mind, listeners. If you have somebody come to you, you give them help, and then you can refer them to even more help. And that's going to make all the difference this year.
I love that. And if you're listening and you're feeling like, oh, maybe I could benefit from help, but other people need help more than I do, or oh, like what I'm going through isn't as bad as what someone else is going through. Remember that everyone deserves help. Everyone deserves the opportunity to show up as their best self, and we need others to do that. So if you are holding yourself back from resources that you need, or from seeking help or going to talk to someone because there's this sense that, well, only people who are in a really bad spot reach out for help, know that that's not true. You don't have to be in the place that I was, where I had to leave my job because I was in a really dark place to get help. the best time is now, so that you can make sure you're doing everything you can to get back on track. And there's no shame in that. That's actually an incredible strength to have. My
Yeah.
clients are some of the strongest people I know, and I drew on those memories when I was feeling at my lowest point to remember, if they can go through this and
Mhm.
if they show up and do the hard work, then surely I can too. And I really want you to know that I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Anyone who's willing to show up as their authentic self and allow themselves to be vulnerable and seek help, you are an incredibly strong person. And hopefully, you being able to show up for you can set an example for other people in your life who might be too scared to seek help. So never let that get in the way of you moving forward and living your best self.
Yes, there's something beautiful as you start to become aware of your emotions and you say, whoa, I got really angry and it wasn't good. Or I'm in a sad place and I can't seem to get out. And you're able to say, all right, right now I'm going to ask for help because I need it right now. And that's okay. I mean, going through our grieving process this year, I've gone to grief therapy. I've talked to friends and coaches that have helped me out because I know as a mom, I need to model that. And my kids, they might be getting better and then they might hit a trigger or a tough spot and say, hey, you know what? I think I need to like talk to that therapist again. I was good, but I need to have another chat and just, check in. And
Yeah.
that's okay. And it's been so wonderful that that's okay.
Mhm.
You
It's
know,
really freeing to know, like, I'm allowed to get help and there aren't all these hoops to jump through. It's just okay for me to reach out.
yes. And it's important to know that, yeah, like you said, don't minimize it because nobody's going to understand it. It may be like for my younger kids they've lost a 22-year-old brother, and we've lost five other young people in that same age group that they knew
Mhm.
over this year for one thing or another. So those things, okay, that brings it all back up again. And we knew this one and we've lost, and so it's been really an interesting journey. And their peers that haven't lost a loved one or somebody in that age group, or maybe they haven't even lost a grandparent or anybody yet. They haven't lost their puppy yet. They talk to their friends and they don't get it.
No.
They don't, because they haven't had, fortunately for them, they haven't had that experience. So sometimes you might talk to your friends and they don't hear you, and that's where you get the resources you need for people that have walked the journey. I have lots of support groups also that I run. Quite a few of them are free for women in shelters and this and that as well. And it's one of those things where we're able to talk in a safe space where people can connect and support each other through it with a guide that's like, okay, I need this group. There's my friend group, and they may not all understand what I'm going through today. And there's my group of people that have gone through it or are going through the same thing, and we're all getting out together. And in community, we have so much more freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And recognizing how different people can give you support. It's okay if a friend of yours isn't a good listener,
Yeah.
or if a family member doesn't get it. It's painful, yes.
Mhm.
But if we can acknowledge who they are and what part of their journey that they're at and the type of support that they can give us, it creates an environment where we're not going to be disappointed all the time because we're expecting something from someone that they just can't give us right now. And
Yes.
it doesn't mean that we're alone. There are other opportunities out there. Like, I love that 211. I'm going to make sure I share it with everyone. Opportunities to connect with resources. And maybe that's the friend that you get together with and just watch silly movies together. And that's the way that they can be there for you, even if maybe they're not understanding in other ways.
Yes. Now, I wanted to ask you, when you left that not so healthy relationship,
Mhm.
was that a tough journey, or how did that work for you?
Yeah. So it's interesting. There was one instance of sexual assault, and there was just a lot of gaslighting and emotional abuse and things like that that happened. And One of the things that worked against me was this idea of like, I'm not a quitter. And honestly, I stayed in that relationship well past the point that I should have left. And yet one of the things that helped me was I kind of stayed in the relationship until all the love had died, until I had gotten to the point where one, those trauma symptoms were starting to come up when I even looked at that person, but also there was nothing of value holding me here. And it took a long time. And honestly, me staying in a really not great situation. But one day I kind of looked up and I'm like, the only reason I'm even still interacting with this person is to benefit them. Every time I interact with them, they make me feel worthless. It reminds me of this awful thing that happened that they've kind of just brushed under the rug. And I was able to really end that relationship. And we were in a period where he had wanted to continue being friends, and removing that component of, not that there really was love there in the end, but removing even the illusion of a romantic relationship allowed me to really see his behaviors for what they were. And
Mhm.
it allowed me to really to sever ties. And thankfully, the people in my world, it took me a while to start sharing with others, but when I finally did, people believed me. And I can't tell you how incredible that was, because it had taken me so long just to sort out everything that had happened in my own head. And I had been led to believe for a while like everything was my fault, and things got all twisted around. I mean, nothing was surprising if you know anything about how any type of abusive relationship works. But being able to see his behaviors through the eyes of people that I cared about, for people to say, no, Jessica, that wasn't sort of not okay, that was wrong.
Yes.
Or if a client had told you that this was happening, how would you respond? Or,
Mm.
for listeners, if you're maybe struggling with this, of thinking about like if a friend, or if you have a child who's grown, who's going through this, and if they come to you and they say, hey, this is what's going on, what would you say to them? How would you see that situation? Because you know that they deserve so much better. Uh,
Mhm.
and really drawing on my support, and being able to even acknowledge to myself, because I think I was kind of pretending that everything was fine for a while in order to protect myself from that pain. And that pain made itself known anyway. It always does. And so when I was able to process that pain and see it for what it was, it gave me the strength to say I deserve better. And I can have continued to say that I deserve better, and I matter just the way I am.
That's right. And that's a journey that a lot of people have had, an unhealthy partner in life. That the way I look at that is that if you're the healthy one, it's still going to take some time, and at some point you have awareness, and then that's the gift of knowing, okay, that's not, what to look for.
Yeah,
And signs are like, oh, wait a minute, nope. That's not, that person is showing me that that's not an aligned person. And what happens is when you have this awareness show up and you say, all right, I'm sorry, they might have something mentally not right with them to be abusive or treat somebody like that. And that's something they have to heal from. And so, I think, given, I always say, if they were in their right mind,
mhm,
okay, if your ex boyfriend was in his right mind, he would say, I would never want anybody I love to be treated like this, but I'm not well enough to be able to treat you right.
yeah.
So please leave. Because anybody that loves you would never want that.
And that's an important point, I think, is that there's a difference between understanding why someone did something and saying that that behavior is acceptable. Because
Right.
a lot of times we can empathize with someone. Oh, work's been really stressful for them. That's why they're yelling at me. Oh, they were cheated on in a relationship in the past, so that's why maybe they're a little bit more controlling. When we empathize, we can sometimes get tricked
Mm-hmm.
into then saying that it's okay that they acted that way. And that's why boundaries are so important, because we can empathize. It can help us be kind and respectful when we set those boundaries. And we're still setting those boundaries because the behaviors are unacceptable.
Yeah.
Because it's on them for how they act, but it's on us for how we respond.
And there are some people that are not well enough for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're drinking or in something else or have a mental issue or they're a narcissist or whatever's going on with them,
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to have to set a boundary and a point where, you know what, it's time for me to go.
Yeah.
This is my sign that I need to
Yeah.
move away from this.
Yeah. For me, he bailed on going to my best friend's wedding that he had known about for a year and a half. And I had joked with her months before of like, because she was like, when is the end point of this? And I was like, well, if he doesn't go to your wedding, I'm done. And joking, thinking like, oh, he would never not do that. And, he made up lots of sort of things. But when the behaviors he was doing to me started impacting the people that I cared about, that was what I needed to be able to see what was going on and take some different steps.
Yeah.
And also giving yourself a little grace if it takes some time to realize what's going on, or we're a little bit clunky in how we set those boundaries, or we're a little bit inconsistent. We're all out here learning. And every experience that we have gives us more information so that we have the best chance at healthy relationships down the road.
Yeah, so if you're listening and you're a parent or a best friend and you've got somebody that's in this relationship and you're like, oh my gosh, why is she or he allowing this? How, let's just get her out or him out or whatever. Be patient, because this is a journey. It takes a long time sometimes to have awareness about what's really going on and to be able to get out, especially if you have somebody in a relationship where there is a commitment, where there's a marriage, where there's children involved, and their safety is involved. So that's when 211 and getting help for getting out of an abusive situation comes in, and connecting with family and friends that will help you. I have a whole book on breaking free from an abusive situation. I have a free ebook for people on that. And I think that that's something that's so important, is it's a journey and it's going to take time. I know that sometimes people will give up on you because they love you so much, and they're like, hey, just come on, it's so easy. But unless you walk in those steps, you don't know the difficulty of it. And so it's if you're listening and you're going through that, you're not alone, and there is another side to it. You do have a chance to have a beautiful new life and have a healthy, balanced relationship. One of the things that I've learned is that we attract what we know as love, and we're attracted to that. But then when we have awareness of, wait a minute, I have this self-love and I deserve better than that. Yeah. And as much love as you give, you deserve that same love back. And you say, this isn't aligned. That awareness will start helping you to attract the people, because now you have boundaries and you have different ways of living, and you're attracting people that are looking for a healthy relationship. Yeah. So you attract healthy people, and you're only attracted to healthy people. And the other people show up and you're like, oh, the bell is ringing, the red flag is going up. Nope. Next. And it's not even, and you just kind of learn. And sometimes it takes a situation, an experience like that to lead us to the right relationship that's healthy for our future. So don't give up.
And honestly, now I have my boundaries. I'm very clear on, I'm not dating right now, but I'm very clear on what I deserve as a human being. And honestly, if someone reacts poorly to that, or they reject it, or they say I can only be in your life under these conditions, I'm grateful for that now, because they're showing me, hey, I'm not a person who would be a good fit for your world. Exactly. And that is okay. I'm like, thank you for showing me who you are. I wish you the best in, your future endeavors.
Yes.
But thank you for making it clear at the beginning that this wouldn't work, whether it's a friendship or family or a romantic relationship.
And I think that that's one thing that I found is in the relationship realm, people will date and
Mhm.
they'll be like, I really, boy, that person's good looking. They just, I think I like them so much. I love their friend circle, whatever it is. I like their car. I don't know. And then they try to fit in with, okay, what do you want me to be?
Yeah.
I'm going to look like this. I'm going to show up like that. I'm going to go do everything that person loves. And what you lose is yourself.
Yeah.
You can get so lost in trying to please the person. And then when you do, okay, they love you because you're everything they ever wanted. Unfortunately, you're wearing a mask. And this year we've got to, the universe is like, here, put a mask on until you catch this drift, that the masks are no good. Take them off. And so we're not real with each other in this dating phase. And that's the most important time when you have these conversations and you get to know people and you decide, is this going to be a fit for a long-term situation or it's not going to be a fit even for a short-term relationship. And you're able to save everybody some time. Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if they're not a good fit for me, then I'm not a good fit for them. And I am releasing them back out into the wild
Yes,
to
because they
to
need to,
find someone who is.
who's aligned with them, and you want to find somebody that's aligned with your core values, life purpose, and vision. It's
Yeah.
not that you have to like all the same things. You can have some opposite things going on,
Yeah.
but when you're both healthy and you're able to have these conversations before you get really into a commitment or something, it's just easier because then oh, what do you want? How many kids you want? You want 8 kids and I don't want any, or I love puppies and I don't like animals, or whatever it is. That's a no. It's like some things are just, it's a no-go.
Yeah, it's a hard no.
Yes. And so then and it's because it's a bigger hell yes.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I want in my life. I want to live like this. I want to, maybe you want to have children later. I want to raise my kids this way. And they're like completely opposite. It's not going to work out.
Yeah.
So save everybody the problem. And then with those standards, you find exactly, it's like you don't even have to look. You just showing up and being your best self every day, and you improve every day, and you're living your authentic truth. And that's when somebody's gonna be like, I like that person just the way they are. Wow. That's it.
And it's okay if you're still nervous about it. It's okay. Well, because there's this kind of myth that that doing the work means you're going to get to a point where you're like, I've done all the work. It's all done. I'm a complete person now and I'm ready, and all my fears that I used to have are just gone.
Right.
And if you wait for that, you're going to miss out on a lot of things in life, because the journey to become who we want to be, our most authentic self, doesn't have an end date. It's something that we continue to show up for and we continue to evolve. Just like the perfect relationship still needs work, because we go through different phases in our life and our needs change, our values can shift from being a young professional couple to then having kids to then being an empty nester. Our needs change over time, and the most important thing is that we're continuing to create intentional times to pause and to check in with ourselves and have a little conversation around what is important to me, and is that reflected in how I'm spending my time and how I'm treating other people and how I'm treating myself. And if the answer is no, that's okay. That just means we got to do a little bit more work in the moment to get back on track.
Right. Well, we are coming to the end of our interview time, and this was such an important conversation. I'd love for you to share how people can connect with you with some of the programs and things you're offering.
Wonderful. Yes. So I am most active on Instagram at Busy Mind Psychologist. And then also, if you go to my website, busymindpsychologist.com, I have a free Busy Mind quiz that goes through the different types of busy minds and gives you a great free resource that you can use. My course, Busy Mind Reboot, won't probably be opened until early spring of next year because I have a couple of things going on. But if you go to my website and sign up for the newsletter, you will be the first to be notified when it opens again. But please feel free to connect with me on Instagram at Busy Mind Psychologist. Shoot me a DM. I respond to all of them, and I'd be happy to connect with you and chat with you.
All right. Thank you. And we will be back after this break.